What's up, YouTube? So the time has finally come. It is summary vid, theory vid, Webtoon reaction day. YouTube, it's been a long journey. Guys, y'all have been following me for months. Y'all have been waiting for this moment. It is finally here. I'm glad you're here with me. I just want to say that I appreciate you more than you could possibly ever know. It's been a long time coming, and I really hope that you appreciate what's about to take place here. Okay, so that being said, we have a few things to cover before we get started. This is how it's gonna work. I'm gonna start out with, got my list here. I'm gonna start out with summary, what happened in the story, via describing each individual character's summary. You know, whatever, their story. Alright, I'm gonna go through what I think the story is about, and then I will go through what I think is happening that isn't being mentioned, and then I will come up with my theories. Theory of what's going on with individual characters, theory of who did what, when to who, thoughts on the actual theory of why everything is happening, how everything is happening. Yeah. My thoughts on where this story is going to lead in the end. Now, I know the story is not over. I know it's ongoing. There is no ending currently, and I'm going to be caught up. I'm not going to be at the end of this story. The webtoon is specifically for me to have some sort of explanation as to some of the things that are going on, maybe reveal some things that I haven't already seen, because there are a lot of empty spaces in this book, in this story, this plot line, and hopefully the webtoon will fill in some of those pieces. It may just leave me with more questions, which, by God, I swear, if there's more questions, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. I guess I'll just be in the same boat with you guys, alright? Some of these are gonna make you guys upset, maybe. I don't know. So, I'm gonna do my best. Remember, this is a guess. At the end of the day, this is a guess. Alright, the summary is the summary. But at the end of the day, my thoughts are my opinion. I respect y'all's opinion. Please respect mine. Right? Okay? We're all here, we're all friends. Right? Y'all have guided me through this world and have brought me to this point. I deserve the freedom to make my own assessment, just like the rest of you. And I hope you guys don't mind. And if it upsets you, I apologize. But we have to look at all the possibilities, okay? If I'm wrong about something, by all means, when we hit the webtoon, that you could type it in the comments, because I'm not gonna put comments on this theory vid. You can type it in the comments, and you say, "You were so wrong, Brad, you were so wrong, I knew it, ha." I would hope that you would have enough class not to do that, but if you want to, I won't hold it against you, and I'll be the first one to laugh along with you, okay? Alright? If I'm right, you're welcome to react however you want. Like, in the end, right or wrong, you're welcome to react however you want. I hope that you guys appreciate everything going on, okay? I hope you guys appreciate the effort that I've put into this, because it has not been just for y'all, it is for myself, because I have been thoroughly involved in this. And I want to thank each and every one of you for being as diligent and patient as you have been with me, and not just like obliterating everything I've worked for by telling me what's going on. Okay? That means the world to me. I love each and every one of you guys for that. And it speaks well for Army. You guys have tagged along with me. I hope you've enjoyed the journey as well. We're not done after this. Alright, we've got plenty to do. Theory vid, webtoon, the new trailer that came out. They're all coming. Alright? And then we have a ton of stuff after. So it's not anywhere near over. We're just catching up with the storyline. And I'm so happy to be here. I'm proud to be here. And I hope that you guys are happy to be here with me as well. With all that being said, let me get started. Alright, so, for those of you who decided not to watch the notes, it's okay. I put it at the beginning of the video that you didn't have to, and I would understand. And I would. And I do, right? Okay? So for those of you who just want a refresher course, I'm gonna go over the summary of this story. And the summary of this story is it really is like a tragedy in and of itself. It really is. There's a lot going on. We've got Jin, who is in, I guess, this well-to-do family. The dad's a businessman, right? Does something to make money, but he's got high expectations for his son, and wants him to be well behaved and this idyllic image, I guess, of what a kid should be in that culture. And it has a lot of expectations, and it's a lot of pressure, but the dad's never around because he's always working, right? He's not being what in American culture we would consider the cookie cutter dad, okay? And it makes him insensitive to the needs of his child, Jin, right? As Jin is in school, trying to behave and do well for his father, he meets a group of boys, right? He's tardy to class. He gets put in this group of boys, and they're cleaning a room. They all become friends, and one day, teacher, principal finds out that they're all hanging out in this room and just BSing instead of being model students, right? Put under the pressure of the situation, Jin rats out everybody who's been involved with the room, and it puts him in a precarious position. Tae, Namjoon, they both hear him. They both hear him say the name of each individual, right, and ratting out everybody. And Namjoon says, "Don't worry about it." Okay. As the story progresses, right, we don't really hear much about him. He's kind of observing in the shadows. Not even in the shadows. It's just he's observing throughout the entirety of the story, pretty much. He's very enigmatic, and I would like to... I'll bring it back full circle at the end of these character theories, but for the time being, they go to the beach, they have a good time, and then, you know, they all separate and go their own separate ways, in a manner of speaking. And, you know, I've read it like 6 times, and I'm already forgetting a little bit about it. It's just, if it's not fresh, I don't know what to say. You know, it's like 5 hours of reading, so I'm not about to jump back in it. But I wrote most of the stuff down. A lot happens in between. We got Jungkook. Jungkook's dad leaves him because he can't be a dad. He doesn't want to be a dad. And so that leaves Jungkook growing up as a fatherless child, right? And it's a lot of pressure on the mom. The mom's super depressed about it and doesn't take care of Jungkook appropriately. We got Jimin, who his parents, I guess, didn't really pay too much attention to him because he had seizures. It's like they treated him like he was a broken child, like he was a piece of machine, broken, right? And so he has a ton of seizures and ends up in the hospital for a majority of the first half of the story. All right, J-Hope. J-Hope's mom left him at an amusement park, and ever since then, J-Hope has been kind of like faking narcolepsy. And I don't know if it's to seek attention, I don't know if it's just a side effect of what was going on, but from what I gathered, he was faking his narcolepsy the whole time, and in my opinion, it was probably just attention. Namjoon's story is probably one of the more tragic in terms of like individual action. He was in a perverse environment growing up. He's poor, right? He went to another town. He worked as hard as he could to support his family. His dad was unwell, and on a bike ride, he falls off his bike. It's snowing outside. He falls off his bike. He doesn't want to get in trouble because he can't afford to lose his job, and he sprays the road down with something, right? Like calcium chloride or something like that. It doesn't mention it in the story, but we find out after the fact that he had done that after this kid he had been working with had died driving down that same road. The next kid got the delivery. That kid died, right? And beyond the cover-up of the company he was working for, saying, yeah, we had a helmet the whole time, when they didn't, right? And him feeling guilty about it, he accidentally got someone killed, right? Now, I'm going into the tragedies here before we start going through the more, I don't even want to say the more positive, before we get to the next part. Yoongi was a kid, burned his house down with his mom inside. Find out later that it's because his mom said, "I wish you were never born." Basically, he got angry and then burned her alive. Really, really intense stuff going on in this story. Okay, a lot of freakouts. Taehyung grew up in a household. It was a broken family. The mom left when he was younger. The dad was an alcoholic. Him and his sister were constantly being beat by the alcoholic father. There are multiple portrayals within the videos of him murdering his dad, but within the story, he never murders his dad. He has countless thoughts of himself murdering his dad for the beatings that he takes, but he does constantly get his ass beat and ends up in jail a lot. Like, he acts out, ends up in jail a lot because of it. They're all intertwined in this wicked entanglement of confusion and, in my case, kind of disbelief to the extent that the world is such a cruel place. What I would say in this instance, they all kind of go about their own separate lives, but they slowly start to entangle themselves. There are things that go in and out, right? We'll just kind of go in order of the story. So we find out that Jimin has been having seizures and he's been in the hospital most of his life. And he's the one who's been out of the story for a majority of the bit, right? Yoongi got expelled from school for standing up for Jungkook while he was getting beat by a teacher. Jungkook feels guilty. He's already feeling useless because his dad never stuck around, right? We don't really hear too much about that story after the fact. Yoongi is brooding over everything. He's kind of buried himself in his music and focusing on things outside of school since he doesn't go to school anymore. Namjoon ends up coming back and finds Tae doing graffiti, gets a job in town, starts working at a gas station. All in all, just kind of whatever. Just hanging out, surviving, right? So while Jimin's in the hospital, J-Hope shows up in the hospital, apparently, and had a narcolepsy episode and ended up in an emergency room. And while Jimin has been in the psychiatric ward of the hospital, he's temporarily in the surgical unit. And that's where J-Hope is. And they bond, they talk together. J-Hope ends up leaving, right? After some spasmodic issues going on with J-Hope thinking he saw his mom, and Jimin just kind of like not being able to leave because it's a mental block. J-Hope leaves, and before we know it, there's some ins and outs in the story, and then before we know it, all the boys are at the hospital. They're breaking Jimin out of the hospital. They get out, and they're all good. They're all having fun, right? And then they all decide to go back to, they've all kind of reunited. And they all decide to go back to the beach. And when they get to the beach, this is where the perplexion starts happening. Things start kind of crossing over into different things, and I get confused. And there's a reason for it. We'll get to it in a minute, right? In this instance, they get to this rock that's supposed to make wishes the first time they go to the beach, but it's not there. Everybody's screaming. Everybody's like, right, you shout out your wish to the sea and it's supposed to grant that wish. Well, everybody's shouting, but nobody can hear what they're saying because of the fact that there's a lot of construction going on. So I have questions about that. What did they say? What did all of them say? It's a lot to soak in, okay? The second time they get there, they're at this observatory tower, which is the big scaffolding we see in all the videos. And Tae is talking about how he sees one thing when an actual other thing is happening, right? Long story short, they have a good day at the beach. And they go back to their lodging, their house or whatever, right? They're having a good time, they're eating dinner, and then Jin's like, I have something that I need to tell you guys. I need to let you guys know what's been going on. And we're like, what do you mean what's been going on? The only thing I can think of is about the incident in school, which I would assume is what he wants to tell them. He needs to get it off his chest. They find out about it. Everybody starts getting pissed off at him, right? Some words are said. We all say stupid things when we're angry. Some words are said, and then there's a fight. Jin hits Tae because Tae said some stuff he shouldn't have said out of anger, which is understandable, but not necessary. We all say things that we regret from time to time. So they all get in a fight and then they all separate, right? There's only 4 of them together. I can't remember who exactly was in there. I just know that Jungkook was in there, right? And then a couple of them leave. Jin leaves. Jimin goes home to his parents, right? Yoongi is just like, whatever, I'm gonna go make music, something, you know? And and J-Hope is I guess just chilling, you know? What does J-Hope do, you know? Anyway, so that would leave Namjoon, Taehyung, and Jin, meant that they all went their separate way. In this instance, right, J-Hope runs ahead, he gets hit by a car, ends up in the hospital, and this is the time they're all upset. They all don't want anything to do with each other. But for some reason, they all come together because the friend got hurt, right? And they all start finding out about it. Well, they're all coming to terms with the fact that Jungkook is hurt. Poor Jungkook, he's in the hospital. He just wanted to get away. Like, he was just sad that the only one thing that he had to hold everything together was now falling apart, and ended up getting hit by a car, which is horrible. The fact that nobody had been there to see it happen was probably the worst thing about it. He just, you know, and let's see, where do I begin? They all start coming together to hang out with Jungkook and kind of reconcile, kind of get things back together. And there's a period between where, you know, Jungkook's in the hospital, he meets someone, he hears the music that was played by Yoongi. These are all like empty dead spaces to me that may have some relevance, and I might not be seeing them, but they're all kind of filler parts essentially in context with the story that's going on. So Jungkook gets out of the hospital. They decide to have like this party, right? And meet up, watch fireworks, and welcome everybody back to the fold. But I feel like there's a wound that just hasn't been sealed yet. And that's one of those things that like you can forgive, but you can't forget kind of situation. Granted, I feel like they're blowing this out of proportion in terms of the situation that happened and why I keep holding it. But I guess it's the fact that he had the opportunity to tell them a bunch of times. And the next part I want to talk about is Jin. Sus, bro. Okay, Jin's part in all of this is intense. It is interesting. It is beyond belief for me. In kind of, it's like I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around it. Let's talk about his part in the story. So all of this happened. Nothing really changed for Jin. We see him in the story, and he's more or less just being very cryptic, very, as I said before, enigmatic, just very like confusing, right? And it's like he's mentioning things. Let's wrap up the story with the fact that he met a girl, right, in their diary. She dropped her diary, he picked it up, he did everything on the list that was in the diary. He read the diary. First off, that's a no-no. You're not supposed to. I get the temptation, but still, shouldn't have done it, right? And then he proceeds to do everything on the list that this girl had written in that diary that she's wanted to do with, in general, said person or with a boyfriend, right? In hopes that when he gave her her diary, she would see it after the fact and be like, oh my god, you know, like, I see where you were going with it. See where you're going with that. So the next thing I want to talk about is he's finally gonna give it back, right? Or at least tell her about it. And it's this flower that's really rare. It was in a book. And then guy forgets the card, calls him, tells him to come back. The flower dude. And the flower dude ends up hitting the girl while she's crossing the street. It's like, dude, you can't win here, bro. Like, it's just, there's no... Where is the happiness in this book except for fleeting moments, you know? All the while, there's a lot going on. Now, I'm going to talk about my theories here, starting now. Jin is constantly watching the boys throughout the entirety of the story. And he's always hypothesizing how things have gone before. And I'm like, what do you mean before? What do you mean before? Like, this happened already, right? It's reading it enough times, it seems obvious. First time probably would have been hella confused, but I've read it enough times, I've seen all the vids, I've made some guesses in the beginning, and the only thing that I can think of is that this cat has seen all these things happening in their dreams, because they have dreams throughout the story about these violent things happening. He's seen them all happen before already, and the only way that is possible if this cat is not some kind of time traveler, or like if we think about like the wormhole and what it means. There are two instances where this theory is kind of like, it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. I think that Jim has the ability to change the past, and I don't know how. I don't know how. I do know this. I feel like if a mirror, right? If a mirror, there's a mirror in every single video. I feel like when the mirrors crack, it's almost like if you were to look at a broken mirror, you could see all the different webs and lines going different ways, right? And it's almost like there's a point of contact, and from that point stretches out millions of different cracks. And that's a symbolic reference to, you can relate that to decisions and like where they take you. Like there's a dramatic spot in your life. Where do you go from there? Like someone dies, what do you do after? That's going to determine the rest of the path, right? And how it gets, how it goes. Yes. Jin touching the mirrors, touching the windows, ripple effects, wormholes, sand from the Smeraldo flower container thing in Fake Love, like it all relates to time. And then him saying that he's seen it before makes me think that multiple decisions made already. Them having dreams makes me think that he's already done this like 15 times and he can't get it to work. He even says, no matter how many times I've tried, I can't get it, always ends the same, right? There's no other explanation either, unless he's lived multiple lives or he's got the ability to travel through time. But the question is, how does he do it? Because if he's done it a million, let's not say a million times, but if he's done it a lot, how does he keep coming back as the same age, right? How have things not been like changed in a way? And you see them change over time. Like, let's imagine if all the negatives had happened and the ending was the positive, right? That was where it all started. He's looking for this one fatal flaw that happened so that the rest of it trickles into play, like reconnects itself. Like, if we got a broken mirror, he's looking for the point that it happened so that he can repair it. You know, stop that from happening, and you stop the rest from happening, like a butterfly. In my opinion, that's what I think is going on. Now we get into the nitty-gritty. Here's the part you might not like. You might, I mean, most of you probably already know. I'm assuming that Jin is the one that hit Jungkook in the car. In the video, we see them driving around in this car, having fun in this car. And there are other videos where Jin is also driving around in this car. I didn't see this until editing, but there's a point where Jungkook is walking across the street and there's a car coming at him, and I had to freeze frame and find other videos and paste them together to find out that it's the same car. My second point of reference. Jungkook is in the hospital and he's being discharged, and he asks one question in the elevator. Said, have you seen Jin? And has he mentioned anything about me? Did he say anything about me? And he goes, why would he say anything about you? Those 2 points make me think that that night, Jin left, and he was driving around, and when Jungkook ran ahead, at some point or another, they came into contact with each other, and Jin accidentally hit Jungkook. That is my thought process. That is my opinion. That is my guess. Okay, I will find out here shortly. We're about to watch the webtoon. Where do I think this is gonna go? This is the part where you guys might actually unsubscribe and hate me for the rest of your life. Throughout the book, it is mentioned that all these instances of possible events that have happened either on in another life, or on another timeline, or in another dimension, whatever you want to call it. It has been given in an example that they are a dream. How messed up would it be after all this is said and done? This entire story ends up being nothing but a dream. The confirming, for me, confirming aspect is not those multiple instances where the realities or alternate realities are being portrayed as dreams or nightmares. But at the end of the book, they had me question something. There's an entry at the end of the book, the epilogue. It's from the 11th of April, Young's entry, and it's labeled nightmare. Why would you put that at the end of the book when there are entries from every single individual on that date? I took the story and I put it in. When I was editing, I slipped it in just to see if it did anything. I put it in order. It didn't do much. It added a little bit of depth to the aspect of that, you know, everybody's having nightmares or dreams about bad incidents. And then I started thinking, I goes, there's a reason that they put it at the end. There's gotta be a reason that they put it at the end. And then you look at the title and you think nightmare. And it really, really took my mind to a place that I didn't think it could go, but I was all over the place just debating with myself. I haven't been able to talk to anybody about this. I haven't been able to hypothesize with anyone. This is probably like the only time I've ever mentioned it out loud. But I think I've mentioned it once on a live, but I wasn't really like, I was joking. I was like, what if it's all a dream? You know, and then somebody came out of nowhere and was like, I'll be so pissed off. And I get it. I would get it, what would be the point, but like, what if it's all a dream, dude? And that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. I don't know where else to go with it. I don't know what else to say. If I had to mention one thing and ask you guys one question, if all of this is true, if it is just a dream, even if it wasn't just a dream, if the time traveler thing is true, if Jin is actually the one at fault for Jungkook's accident and everything else going on, where would the point be that Jin could go back to and fix it? Right? I asked myself that question like 20 times already just today, and I keep coming back to the one or two spots, and the first one being, if he had the obvious one, if he hadn't ratted everybody out, or even if he had just told everyone about it, maybe they wouldn't have been in that position. And then I thought back, well, think back further. How far does that butterfly effect, does that ripple in time go back? And if you think to how they all ended up meeting each other, it's because they were all tardy. And it couldn't just be some glorified, you need to be on time, be a good kid message. You know? So that's where I am with everything. That's what I think with everything. And as askew as some of it may be, as weird as some of it may be, because I still don't believe that I'm coming up with these theories, that is where my head is at, and that is going to be the end of this vid. So sit back and relax. I'm going to post this with the Webtoon. Go easy on me in the comments of the Webtoon, please. I love you all. It's been a hell of a journey. We're about to catch up and find out what's going on. See you in a bit.